Hello my loves, welcome back to another video. So this is actually editing Christina, jumping in with a bit of a disclaimer for this video. As I've been sitting down to edit this chitty chatty video, I've realized that it's going to need to be split into two videos because as one, it finishes at 45 minutes. And whilst I personally would love to watch a chit chat video for 45 minutes, I feel as though splitting it into two is going to be the best thing for you guys to be able to listen to it in like a 20-minute moment. So if it comes to an abrupt end, which it likely will because I didn't intend to split the video up, so it's kind of just like me talking and then all of a sudden it's just going to stop and then the next video will continue on from where it cut off. I just want to give you guys a heads up. So part 2 is coming. It's already edited. I'll schedule it for a few days after or the week following this video. But with that being said, welcome to my sit down video around why I'm getting the Mirena out, what I'm going to be doing moving forward, how I'm feeling, my endometriosis journey, all of the things. As always, thank you for being here. I love you guys. If this is your first video, hello, love you so much. And it means the world to me if you guys like, comment, and subscribe to my channel because I want to grow this community and I want to spend as much time with you guys as possible. So big love and enjoy part 1. Okay, hello guys, welcome back to another video. I'm so excited to bring this video to you. If you haven't already been able to tell by the title, this is going to be a full sit down chitty chatty video because I am taking you guys along for the journey of taking my Mirena out. So I have so much to say on this, but before I get into just having a chat with you guys, and that's really all this is going to be, it's going to be me sharing my journey, sharing my experience with endometriosis, the Mirena, how my body has responded, how I've been feeling, the path that I'm going to take moving forward, the decisions that I'm making around my body. But before we get into any of that, I just want to say that, of course, I am not a medical professional. Anything that I'm sharing today is just my perspectives, my opinions, what I believe is going to work best for my body, what hasn't worked in the past, like everything in between. So please take everything that I say with a grain of salt and know that even if I'm saying that certain things, you know, aren't for me or that I don't agree with certain things or that certain experiences haven't been amazing for me, that does not mean that that's going to be the case for you as well. So I will always just be the biggest advocate for, you know, it's up to us to know our bodies best and it's up to us to make decisions that we believe are going to support, you know, how we want to feel, the life that we want to experience, whatever, like apply it to anything. And again, none of this is right or wrong. It's just my experience, my decisions, how I've been feeling, and yeah, what the next little bit moving forward is going to look like. So I personally believe that education is king, being informed around our decisions, especially as women, with our bodies, with our hormones, with everything like that. Education is key and awareness is key. So I think that one of the biggest reasons why I want to bring this conversation to my channel and bring this conversation to the internet and the journey moving forward, which is one that I can't predict. Like, I don't know what the next little bit's going to look like, which we'll get into in a second. But the main reason for sharing that is, yes, to like share my journey and take you guys along, because YouTube is quickly becoming the place that I just love to come and chat with you guys, if you haven't already noticed, because I can talk. But it's really to always raise awareness around the fact that we, as women especially, do have choices when it comes to, you know, our bodies, our hormones, birth control, all of these different things. And again, I am no expert. I have just had experiences that have been good for me, not so great for me, all of which have led me to where I'm at now and the decisions that I'm making moving forward. But yeah, I just want to open up the conversation and, you know, even if just one person benefits from coming along with this journey, that's all a girl can ask. That's all a girl can ask. I have spoken about this very briefly on my Instagram stories, and it's been crazy how many of you already have resonated with feeling just so uninformed around your choices when it comes to birth control, your body in general. How many people have had, you know, problems with the Mirena, being prescribed to go on certain birth control pills, and, you know, the effects that those things have had on their body and just things that they wish they knew sooner. That's really all I want this to even just get people curious about, like get people curious about, you know, the choices that they are making, and are those choices ones that they actually want to be making, that are actually aligned for them, or are they just choices that we think we have to make? So with that being said, strap in, because I feel like this is going to be like quite a long video. I have kind of written down a few notes here that that's not it. I have written some notes down, and just kind of around like what I want to talk about, but in the same breath, I'm just going to let this conversation go where it needs to go and just take you guys, you know, for a little bit of a walk down memory lane with my journey with the Mirena and endometriosis. So let's start from when I was first diagnosed with endo and kind of what that experience was for me. So at the point of my life that I started to feel a lot of pain, not just around my cycles, it's interesting for me, my pain was never directly linked to the time of month that I was bleeding or even in the lead up to. It was always very random, which had always made me question whether or not the symptoms that I were experiencing were actually endo in itself or if it was other factors. And I do now in hindsight know that it was definitely other factors just based on the lifestyle that I was living at that moment. I have been very active for many, many years, but the season of my life when I was diagnosed with endo and when I had my surgery for it, I definitely was tackling like my health and fitness in the extreme to the point to which what I was doing actually wasn't healthy. And what I mean by that was I was working at a gym at the time as a group fitness instructor and was waking up at around 3 a.m. in the morning to train before I would then go to work. I would work all morning for about 3 to 4 hours, but very active. So I was running around. My steps were getting up to like 20K, 25K plus steps a day. I would then come home and run my business at the time, which was the protein balls back then. I would train like twice a day sometimes, often, and overall I was doing a lot of very healthy things, but I wasn't actually looking after my body, and my nervous system was absolutely fried in hindsight because I was just go all the time. That paired with underfueling myself, I know now that if ever I haven't eaten for a certain window of time or I've overdone it in whatever way, my body does respond and I do have pain come on that is similar to that of the pain that has been linked with my endometriosis. So that's something that is very like personal to me and my body, but I've noticed over the years that it's not solely isolated to my endo, right? So at that point in my life, I was having a lot of flare-ups, and I remember the last one, I was at the gym. It was the evening, I was coaching a session and I had to run into the kitchen. And when I have this pain, and I still have it now every now and then, not every now and then, I still have it now, but it's like it takes over my entire body. Like I get really, really hot, I cramp up, and there is nothing that I can do to soothe the pain other than go into a full fetal position and just like ride it out. It is the most excruciating thing. It's something that I have never really been able to explain. I always know when it's coming on. It's like a tingle in my belly, then it goes all the way up to like the middle of my chest, all the way up, and then it's like wraps around my back and just it's very bad. It's very, very hectic. But I had my first like experience of that really when I was at the gym. And I remember crews came and, you know, they were like, do we need to call it a hospital, go to the, like call an ambulance, whatever. But I just went home, I rested and everything. And that was really what prompted me to go and chat with a specialist. So I was recommended a specialist in South Australia, and my experience was not amazing in hindsight. So at the time, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, like I think this is common for so many young women, especially in the generation that I grew up, and you know, just in the level of information and education that we had around our choices with like birth control, there wasn't really much. Like all it was, you know, you go on the pill to protect yourself from not having a baby early if you don't want to, or to regulate your periods if that's like the reason that you're going on it, or to alleviate pain. Like there's so many reasons, right? There's a plethora of reasons why we go on the pill and contraception and stuff like that. So my experience was not amazing in hindsight. However, at the time, I had put full trust into my specialist because of course, like I was young, I was terrified, like I didn't know what was happening with my body. My whole life I have really, really wanted to be a mum, and like my mind went to the most negative bias in those moments of like, is this something that means I'm not going to have kids? Like all of these things I was really terrified of. And of course, when you're put in front of a specialist at such a young age, and when you are so uneducated yourself, and that's no one else's fault but my own. And I think that in the, you know, day and age that I've grown up in,
it's very common for a lot of young girls to not have actually known why it is that they were going on the pill, or why it is that they had the Mirena, or why XYZ. It was just kind of the thing that you did, right? Which I take full responsibility for. And before I actually keep going, I want to make a note that like this video is not to shit on any like experience, any specialist, any decision, any advice, anyone's choices. Again, like everyone's choices are perfect to you. So what I'm going to say now is what is right for me, but that doesn't mean that it's just like what is right as a blanket approach, right? So please just know that. And please also know that I know that doctors and specialists are doing the best that they can to help us, right? Like they genuinely believe that the advice that they are giving us and that the path that they're putting us down is actually the most beneficial for us, and that's perfect. And for some people it absolutely is, and for others maybe you question that, and that's also perfect. But no one's ever right or wrong, it's just right in the context to you, your life and your body, right? And so yeah, I went and saw this specialist. It was very much the vibe of I was terrified going in there. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea why it felt like my body was failing me, truly. I was just like, what is happening? Like I'm just in so much pain. Why is this happening? Yada, yada, yada. And essentially, long story short, I was just given like, hey, you've got no choice but to have surgery. We don't know for sure if you've got endometriosis until we are in like your body, so until we have the surgery, and then afterwards you'll just go on the Mirena, because if you don't, that will very much lower your chances of being able to fall pregnant naturally in the future. And that was kind of it. And especially at that age, I lacked a lot of confidence, I guess, to question that. And I didn't even know that I could question that, because it was kind of the vibe of like, well, you're the specialist, you're the expert, you know, so okay, all good. And I remember just like kind of nodding my head along in the appointment. This was 3 years ago now, maybe 4 years ago. I can't remember exactly. I think it was 2021. So middle of 2021. So like 3.5 years ago, or 2020. Anyway, yeah, I was just like, okay, yep, like, yes, you're right. Like, okay, yeah, cool. All right. I was just so almost went into a freeze state of I'm terrified. If I don't do this, I won't be able to have kids. Like my brain just went to all of the extremes. And so I was booked in for my laparoscopy, I think it's called, like the surgery to remove endo and like look for sites of it. So I remember even then, the night before my surgery, I could not find anywhere like information around, you know, what time I had to be at the hospital or anything like that. It was kind of like your surgery's booked in for this date, and we'll kind of be in touch with you to organize like times, what to do as preparation, what time to get to the hospital, all the things. I never received any of that. And so the night before, I remember mum was like calling the hospital trying to figure out what time I had to be there, like what I had to do for preparation. Eventually we got onto them. I went in there the next morning at 11 o'clock, fasted, because my surgery was meant to be at like 1 or 2, and so you were meant to fast for whatever the period was. It was like obviously overnight. So I did all of that, and then I went in there and they were like, oh yeah, like you'll just like wait in here, get dressed, put your gown on, wait here, and then we'll go through. And so I was waiting for, I think, 6 or 7 hours. Like I was waiting 6 or 7 hours before they took me through. At this point I was so terrified. Like I was just like, I don't even know what's happening. And yeah, I just feel like there was a lot of, I don't know, like I just felt like I wasn't taken care of in that regard. And again, like I'm not here to talk about, oh, it's so like not fair and whatever, but I just had a bad experience, right? Then I woke up from my surgery the next day, and I just remember my surgeon coming in, and it was essentially like, hey, how are you feeling? And I was like pretty terrified. I got up, I started bawling my eyes out because my body was so inflamed, which if you have had, you know, endo surgery, you would know. Especially the first one, I was terrified. I was so inflamed. I had all of these scars, like 4 scar points. I was in so much pain, and I was just so confused. And essentially the surgeon was just like, okay, like all the best, and left. And I was just like, at the time, beside myself, just kind of being like, I guess this is right, like I guess I should know just what to do. I kind of gaslit myself into being like, if she is just so blasé about this and it's just kind of like all the best, like yada yada yada, good luck, maybe I've like missed information, maybe I should know these things, maybe whatever. But I was just given no information around like how to care for even my stitches or rehab afterwards, or how much time. I knew that I couldn't train or anything for 3 weeks, but I was just kind of left in the dark. And I remember that just being such a like scary moment for me as well, because again, like my body had just gone under stress of surgery and all of these things, and then to wake up and be like, good luck out there, I was just like, what the fuck? And again, I didn't question it, and it was just kind of like, oh, I guess this is it then. So even that in hindsight, like I have such a problem with, because I feel, you know, as women and anyone in the world, whoever you are, your body is your body. Like, it's your body, and to feel as though you can just have surgery and then it just like not matter and just get over it and figure it out. I don't want to say like it's traumatic, because that's pretty hectic, but equally, like, it was a pretty shit experience, you know, just to feel so helpless in my body and kind of feel like, oh, like, firstly, I felt like my body was letting me down, to then have a surgery, to then kind of wake up and feel just like so unsupported in how to care for myself moving forward, but just blindly followed the lead of what I was told, you know, and that's what I fully take responsibility for in hindsight. So yeah, that was kind of like my experience with my surgery. And then I woke up and I had the Mirena. So I, again, was quite uneducated around the reason why specifically I had the Mirena, but I just knew that it was to help my endo, and then if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to have children. Like, that was just kind of the thought process that my mind went down. Fast forward 3 years, I have had the Mirena the entire time. And I guess now I want to talk about what has led me to the decision of removing it, and, you know, bits and bobs in that. And I'm mindful of this video might just be all over the shop, guys, because I feel like I'm just kind of sharing what's on my mind. So I hope that, yeah, I hope that it does like help someone in some way, because I'm kind of just rambling at this point, but I do want to get my story across and kind of like shed light on why it is that I'm making the decision that I'm making. So I guess where I want to go to now, what's prompted me to get it out. So if I'm looking down, obviously just looking at my phone, but I can't explain. I've tried to explain this to people, and I kind of struggle to explain it in a way that makes sense to anyone other than myself, or anyone other than myself and people who have had similar experiences when it comes to removing their Mirena as well. But I'm gonna call it like an awakening. Like, a few months ago, I just had a moment where it was like my body spoke to me. And I know that can sound a type of way, but it truly, like, it was like my body spoke to me, and it was like, hey, this is not meant to be in your body anymore. Like, we don't want foreign objects in our body anymore. And I think, you know, there's been so many small moments over the last few years that have really led me to the place that I'm at now with making this decision. Like I said, when I first had my endo surgery and I had my Mirena put in, the lifestyle that I was living, and even the way that I was like eating and stuff like that, it definitely didn't support pain management or prevention or anything like that when it comes to endometriosis, right? And if you guys have followed me along on my Instagram, even on the Nourishment Project, you would know that now the way that I eat is very much to support health. It is to support my hormones, and that even over this year has been a massive thing for me. But I kind of had a moment where I was like, well, I can do all of this work to regulate my hormones, but at the end of the day, I still have synthetic hormones being pumped through my body via the Mirena. And that was really the moment where I was like, it's so out of integrity for me with what I value in and with how I want my health to be. And that was kind of the slap in the face moment for me, where I was like, okay, you know, 3 years ago, that's actually what you needed. And I know that in hindsight, that's what I needed at the time to support me. But I've done so much work to educate myself around things that I can do naturally, foods to eat, spices, herbs, like home remedies that are very just natural parts of my days now that I know support my endometriosis. And so I just had a moment of, what would it look like, Christina, for you to just fully trust in your body's ability to show up for you without the Mirena, without synthetic hormones, without, you know, the support from something foreign in your body. And it was just one of those moments where I was just like, I can't not do this now. Like, I can't not take this out with everything that I had seen and what I'd felt, and just, yeah, how I felt in my body. I just had such a moment of waking up to the fact that it just no longer aligned with me. And something that really helped me over this year as well, I am such a firm believer that we're always put in situations or in conversations that give us what we need without knowing that we need it, be that a conversation with someone sharing their experience, whatever it is, for us to then go forward on our own journey and make a decision with the information that we've gathered, if that makes sense. Like, I believe we're always in the right place at the right time, having the right conversations and stuff like that. And moving up to the Gold Coast this year, obviously, I am now around a lot of my very close friends in much more close proximity. So physically seeing them more, spending more time with them, naturally having more conversations with them. And there were so many times where I would just say, oh yeah, like, you know, I've got the Mirena, or like whatever, just randomly. And so many of my girlfriends were just like, wow, like, do you? And it was kind of just the first time I ever questioned that it was potentially not normal for me to have it. And normal, I say that very loosely, but just like for me and for the way that I lead my life and for what I value and for what I want to experience with my body. And thereafter, I also had a lot of conversations with friends and even just people that I've met along the way. But they've said, yeah, I had the Mirena too, and I had all of these kind of symptoms as a byproduct of it. And I've never felt more like myself than I have since having it removed. And that really just started to spark things in my mind for me, where I was like, wow, there are so many things, symptoms that I have had since having my Mirena in that I never linked back to the Mirena. Like, I thought that like life was throwing curveballs or things were happening, or, you know, all of a sudden I just started feeling types of ways. But after having conversations and after kind of looking at my own timeline with all of these symptoms that I've started to experience since having the Mirena up until this point consistently, regardless of what had been happening in my life, I really started to see, fuck, like I actually don't think this is doing me good. And I'll speak to those symptoms because I've written them down. But again, it's kind of like I didn't realize that what I was experiencing wasn't normal because I had just normalized it, because I had been experiencing it for so long, and because unconsciously, obviously, I was still holding this belief that, well, the Mirena is doing good for me. And of course it is, it has in its own way, but equally I never acknowledged where it could actually be doing me dirty, where it could actually not be helping me, right? So it's just crazy. Hindsight is a crazy thing, guys, because we can truly believe something is as it is and that is true. And then all of a sudden you just kind of gain new awareness and information around things and you realize, wow, I'm the problem. The Mirena could be the problem. And before I even keep going, I'll speak to this again, but there's also no guarantee that when I get the Mirena out, all of these symptoms are going to like go away, or that I'm going to feel better. I might feel worse. I might down the path change my mind. Like, I don't know. But for right now, this is what's true for me. So guys, we're best friends now, by the way. Like, just please know we're best friends now. I'm going to be telling you everything. TMI. I'm a very TMI kind of person. I feel like maybe I should work on that, but I just love to share. So I'm not really here for the TMI vibes. You're not in the right place. That's the first thing that I'm going to say. But I wrote down the symptoms that I've been experiencing that I can now look back on and realize that they started when I got the Mirena in. So I actually didn't have these symptoms prior to that. One that I did was the endo pain, which, like I said before, I don't actually believe it's fully linked to endo in its entirety. But these are the things that, yeah, like I said, I really noticed have been consistent in my life since putting the Mirena in. And like I mentioned, like I've gaslit myself so much into thinking that the reason I've felt these things have been for other reasons, but I'm now quite convinced that it is due to this little guy in my body, which is why I'm very excited to get it out. So the first is that since having the Mirena in, I've had 2 bleeds per month, right? So 2 periods per month for 3 years. And especially with the way that I feel leading up to my period, and then the days of, and then obviously having a few days in between where I'm not in that to then go into it again, it's honestly felt like such a roller coaster on my emotions, on just feeling like I've always got my period, because 2 times a month is a lot. And yeah, like that has just been my norm for so long. And something that's really interesting, or not interesting, but just a fun fact, like before having my endo surgery, I had actually lost my cycle for 1.5 years. And that was as a result of underfueling, overtraining, stress, like all of these things. I was not looking after myself properly. And my cycle left the building because it was just kind of like, okay, we're in survival mode now. So what we don't need to do is reproduce. So we can just get rid of that. And that was where my body was at. So you can already see how like I was in such a fight or flight state when I did go in for all of the surgery and the Mirena and all the things. So it's interesting and hard to kind of know what my cycles would have been like pre-Mirena, because I didn't actually have a cycle for that period of my life. But I remember before that, it was pretty regular. And before that, I was on the pill for 6 or 7 years. Okay, that's a whole different story in itself. But what's also interesting is that when I had the Mirena in, my specialist also prescribed for me to go on the pill simultaneously, because she was like, that will help your consistency with your period. So this was like after a couple of months where I was like, okay, I'm having 2 bleeds, like it's literally not stopped per month. And they were like, yep, go on the pill as well. And that's when I was like, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not having a pill and a Mirena, like it's just not happening. And so I, just kind of let it do its thing. So I've had 2 bleeds per month. Fatigue. Okay, if you guys know me, you've followed my Instagram, you've been here for a while, I am like a sleep guru. I will sleep minimum 8 hours per night. I I have very good wind down routines. Cruz and I go to bed very early. I've always been on my biohacking when it comes to room temperature, lavender, eye masks, all of these things. Like, I am on my money, and I've been on the money with my sleep for many, many years. Like, it's always been something that I've been really fascinated about and something that I've taken very seriously. Regardless of that, I have truly felt like I've been at a state of constant fatigue for as long as I can remember. Like, even my girlfriends have said to me, like, yeah, whilst I do hold myself and my energy to a point where I don't actually let the fatigue like stop me from just going about my day and, getting things done, doing whatever, at like a baseline, the way that I have felt has been just flat lines. Like, no matter how much rest I get, no matter how much I do or don't train, no matter how much I sleep, no matter how good my quality of sleep is, all of these things, constant fatigue, constant fatigue. So that's been interesting. And of course, none of these things are in isolation due to a thing. So again, I'm very mindful of that, guys. Like, I'm not saying like, yes, I'm tired, so instantly that means it's the Mirena, but I'm just saying these are things that I've noticed really began when I got my Mirena and have remained constant up until now, right? So there's so much more that I can look at in that. I have also been very low in iron in the past, so I need to be mindful of that. Magnesium, all the things. But that's something that really came about when I put the Mirena in.